Good morning, students. Hope you all are doing fine. Welcome to the tutorial. But first of all, as you all know, during these days of festivals, Corona pandemic is still there. So you all have to take care of yourself, keep yourself safe in these days. As I had already told you, that to boost up your immunity, eat healthy, hygienic, homemade food. Avoid public gatherings, right? Maintain social distance. And if it is very necessary, only then leave your house, right? And that too with mask, okay? Because safety of yours is in yours hand, right? Now, let us move to our today's topic. We are going to start with a new chapter. Very little bit of the chapter we will be doing, just the introduction, nothing more. But we are going to start with lesson 5, separation of substances. Students, you see so many things around you, right? There are so many things which are made of one or two or three or four components. Even air around you, it is also a mixture of gases, water vapors, dust particles. Means even air that you inhale, it is also made up of so many components, right? Milk you drink, it also has so many components in it. It has proteins in it, it has carbohydrates in it, right? So there are so many things that are made up of two or more components, but sometimes we need to separate out these components. Now the question arises, what is the need of separation of substances? क्या जरूरत है हमें इन substances को separate out करने की? There are so many reasons. First of all, sometimes things are mixture of useful and non-useful things. So we need to separate out the non-useful parts. For example, let me give you a very small example of your daily life. Have you seen your mother pouring tea in the cup? When she makes the tea, she adds tea leaves to it. When tea is prepared, when it is ready, you don't consume tea leaves along with the tea. You need to separate out the tea leaves from the tea by using the sieve, right? In the same way, you have seen your mother separating out the stones from small pieces of stones from pulses, rice. Why the need of separation is there? Because they are harmful, undesirable substances. So we need to separate it out. So there are so many things. Sometimes there are more than 2-3 useful components in a mixture. We have to separate out. For example, when crude oil is found, we have to separate it into so many useful forms. We get petrol, diesel, coal. All these are useful forms which we need to separate out, right? So separation of substances is necessary. Now the question arises, what are the methods of separation? This is the main point. This should be our focus. What are the methods of separation? बच्चे, methods of separation are dependent on the type of mixture. Before we know which method is to be applied to separate out the components, we should know which type of mixture is there. So pay attention here. I want you all should note it down in your notes copies, because so many questions are asked based on this, right? I'll tell you the form of questions also, but please note it down. What are the types of mixtures that are found in nature? For example, solid in solid means mixture किस चीज का है? Solid में ही solid है, right? Then there is another mixture, another type, solid in liquid. Okay, solid in liquid. Then there is liquid in liquid. Liquid in liquid. Basically in your syllabus there are 3 types of mixture: solid in liquid, liquid in liquid, and solid in solid. Right? Is that clear to all? Now, which are the separating processes involved? When we have to find out which method is to be used, we must know which type of mixture is there. It will be very clear to you in a short span of time. For example, if the component is having all the components in solid form, then which methods are to be used? There are 4 methods. They are hand picking method. Then there is sieving method. Then there is threshing method. Then there is winnowing. We will be discussing all the methods one by one in the class. Right? These are all the methods that are implied when the substance is solid. All the components are solid when we have to separate out the solid component from the solid mixture. Right? Now next is solid in liquid. When something is solid, that is mixed in a liquid. बच्चे, 2 cases may arise. In this case, again 2 cases may arise. This is solid, which is to be mixed in liquid, It may be the soluble solid or it may be insoluble. Either तो वो soluble होगा या वो insoluble होगा. अगर वो soluble है, then the process involved is evaporation. Right? If it is insoluble, then there are other processes, that is filtration, sedimentation, decantation, right? Decantation, you had already done these methods in 5th standard also. And one more method is there, that is churning or centrifugation. Churning you can write. Right? All the methods I'll be explaining you. Next is liquid in liquid. Now again, 2 cases arises. If both the components are liquid, then they may be soluble or insoluble. If it is soluble, then we say it miscible. In case of liquids, we do not use word soluble. We use miscible. And if it is insoluble, it does not get dissolved, then we use the word immiscible. Right? Immiscible. Is that clear? And to separate out miscible liquids, which process is used? To separate out miscible liquids, we have to use distillation. Which method? Distillation. And if liquid is immiscible, then we have to use decantation method. Right? Now, I will explain you all the methods, not in detail, but today by giving very small examples. Tomorrow we will be doing one experiment also based on these 2 methods, hand picking and sieving. But today I will just introduce you these methods. What are these? बच्चे, hand picking की best example है. Tomorrow I will show you also. You might have seen your mother separating out the pieces of small pieces of stones from dal or rice. How she is doing? She is separating it by using her hand. This is known as hand picking. What is the criteria, which should be the qualities, that we will be discussing later on when we will be taking out all the methods separately. Then is sieving. Sieving is channa, right? So best example of sieving is when you might have seen your mother sieving the flour, right? Atta in the sieve. What happens is husk remains behind on the sieve and the finer particles, they come out of the sieve. This is known as sieving. Then is threshing. But threshing is basically done in the fields. In this case, what happen is grains, they are separated from the stalks. राइट ग्रेन्स जो होते हैं, दाने जो होते हैं, वो स्टॉक से सेपरेट किए जाते हैं. हाउ? बाय बीटिंग देम ऑन द ग्राउंड. राइट, दिस इज नोन एज थ्रेशिंग. वी विल बी डूइंग इट इन डिटेल. देन इज विनोइंग. व्हाट इज विनोइंग? विनोइंग होता है सेपरेशन ऑफ हैवियर एंड लाइटर कंपोनेंट्स बाय ब्लोइंग एयर. हवा चला देते हैं बाय ब्लोइंग एयर. चलती हुई हवा से heavier and lighter components get separated. How? Lighter components are blown away. They make a separate heap. And heavier components, they remain there as they cannot be blown away. Right? This is the case of all the solid components. Now, as I told you, next comes solid and liquid. So, if the one of the component is solid, we have to separate out the solid and liquid components. So two cases may be there. So they may be soluble, they may be insoluble. If it is soluble, then how to separate? By the method of evaporation. As you know, salt is soluble in water, right? So how do we separate salt and water? By evaporation, right? You might have seen sea water is salty. How you obtain the salt? This sea water is collected in lagoons. Water gets evaporated by the heat of the sun and salt is left behind. In the same way, if the component is insoluble in liquid, then filtration can be done by using the funnel and filter paper. The insoluble thing, it remains on the filter paper. Here another example I want to give you from your daily life, that is separation of tea leaves from the tea. एक चीज का आप ध्यान रखना, ड्यूरिंग एग्जाम्स यू पीपल गेट कंफ्यूज दिस विद सीविंग. फिल्ट्रेशन एंड सीविंग आर ऑफन कंफ्यूज्ड. अगर आपको क्वेश्चन आता है हाउ विल यू सेपरेट आउट टी फ्रॉम टी लीव्स, तो आपने पहले देखना है मिक्स्ड कंपोनेंट्स कौन से हैं, उसमें कौन सी टाइप ऑफ मिक्सचर है. टी लीव्स एंड टी. टी लीव्स आर सॉलिड एंड टी इज लिक्विड. सो दिस टाइप ऑफ मिक्सचर इज देयर. बट इफ यू विल बी राइटिंग सीविंग, because you people are using that sieve strainer जिसको आप बोलते हो sieve, तो this will be wrong because this question generally comes. Different types of mixtures are given. आपको पहले type of mixture find out करनी होती है, फिर उसमें suitable method लगाना होता है. So अगर tea leaves और tea को separate out करना है तो filtration method is there. ठीक है. मड और वाटर को हम सेपरेट करते हैं बाय फिल्ट्रेशन. अनदर मेथड टू सेपरेट आउट इज सेडिमेंटेशन एंड डिकेंटेशन. दिस यू ऑल नो, यू हैव डन इन 3rd, 4th, 5th. नेक्स्ट इज चर्निंग. व्हाट इज चर्निंग बेटा? दिस इज अ न्यू मेथड फॉर यू. वी विल बी डूइंग इट इन द डिटेल ऑल्सो, बट वेरी स्मॉल इंट्रोडक्शन आई वॉन्ट टू गिव यू. एक्चुअली इसमें क्या होता है, lighter components and heavier components, they are separated out by rotating the mixture with a very high speed. आपने you might have seen your mother making the butter. What she is doing is butter and that milk, it is separated out, है ना? तो how she moves it at very high speed. And heavier components get aside and lighter components get aside. This is known as churning. In the same way, liquid in liquid, if both the components are liquid, again two cases arise. The liquid may be miscible or it may be immiscible. Miscible means if it completely dissolves in another liquid. For example, water and milk. So they are separated by the method of distillation that you also had done in 5th standard, right? Distilled water is obtained by this method, right? If you remember. Then in another case, if you want to separate out immiscible liquid. Now I want to give you one example of immiscible liquid. Oil and water, they are immiscible. When you add oil to the water, oil form a separate layer over the water. It do not get dissolved, right? So how to separate it? By decantation method, right? All the methods I will be explaining you one by one in the class. Till then, please note down this table. It is very important because whenever you have to attempt the answer, you should know, it should be clear in your mind which type of mixture is given and which method is best suited for it to separate out the components. Right? Tomorrow we will be doing one practical in which I will be showing you hand picking and sieving. I will be separating out the components using both the methods. Till then, enjoy. Bye.